Today I'm going to be working on a 2016 Honda Pilot with a transmission issue. This is kind of a notorious issue. It's a shudder or a judder, whatever terminology you want to use. We're going to take it out for a test drive. I'm going to show you what's going on, and then we're going to try and fix it. I don't know for sure if this is going to address the issue or not, but we're going to give it a shot. I believe there's a technical service bulletin covering this procedure. Basically, we're just going to do a transmission drain and refill 3 times. So first, I'll show you the problem, and then we'll get into the service. Now we're out on a test drive. This vehicle, this 2016 Honda Pilot, has the 6-speed because it has a traditional shifter in it, so you know it's a 6-speed. It doesn't have the push button. And this is the one that's notorious for this problem. Now this one has 142, almost 143,000 miles on it, and the owner of it has owned it since 2018 and has done nothing but oil changes. And she bought it prior to 105,000 miles. So this, in my opinion, is a poorly maintained vehicle. No transmission services, no timing belt, water pump, spark plugs, any of that stuff. So it is in excellent condition, but overdue on a bunch of stuff. So here's the problem we're having. I'm going to give it a little bit of throttle, and you can see the tach bouncing up and down there. You can feel it as we're driving, and you can see it just bouncing up and down a little bit. There, you can see it again. Whether or not you have the shudder problem, this is also just how you do a traditional transmission service on the 2016 through 2020 Honda Pilot with the 6-speed automatic. Again, you know if it has a 6-speed because it has the traditional shifter instead of the push button gear selector. So pretty short list of things you need. The drain plug on the transmission is a square 3/8 drive, so a ratchet, no socket is needed, and I have just a regular ratchet to loosen it, and then I've got a torque wrench to tighten it. On that note, I'm going to have all the details in the description. The tools I'm using, the torque spec, we'll go over that when we get to tightening it down, but check the description for any of those details. You can almost do this job without watching the video and just by looking in the description. But I'm going to link it all in the description, as well as fluid, the funnel, and all of that. I am an Amazon affiliate, so I do appreciate if you click on the link and buy the products. You do not pay anything extra, but I do get a small commission off of it, and that's how you support the channel, so I appreciate that. Because I'm doing this on a lift, and of course that makes it easier, but you absolutely do not need a lift for this job. You can do it on a floor jack with jack stands in your driveway. Because I'm doing it on a lift, I've got a drain pan like this, but a regular drain pan will work just fine as well. And then the last thing on the list is the fluid. Now I'll link in the description both the Valvoline Max Life ATF that I'm going to use, as well as the Honda DW-1 type fluid. And it is up to you. This is always a hotly contested item, and I keep lots of this Valvoline on a shelf. It is recommended by Valvoline for a lot of applications. If you look on the back of it, it lists Honda DW-1, and that is why I'm going to use it. Now, if you prefer to use the OEM Honda fluid, that is also a great choice. I would not recommend you don't use that, but I do not believe that you have to use the OEM Honda fluid. There are certainly people that will disagree with me on that. I believe that the critical thing is that you follow the manufacturer recommendation and use the right type of fluid, which in this case is DW-1. And this is recommended for applications requiring DW-1. I do not expect you'll have any issues with it. If I thought there were going to be issues, I wouldn't be using it. I do lots and lots of transmission services, and I do not have trouble with this fluid. It is excellent quality fluid from a reputable brand, Valvoline. So, sorry to ramble about that, but I know I'll get comments, and so I figure I'll cover it in the video. So I have 3 gallons of this. Now you only need about a gallon for a single service, but because we've got this shuttering issue, we're going to repeat this process 3 times and do our best to get all of the old fluid out. It's a little non-scientific here, and of course when I do the first service and put the new fluid in, it'll get diluted a little bit, but by doing it 3 times, we are going to get a large quantity of old fluid out, and we should be in excellent shape. And then we're going to test drive this thing and see if we notice a difference. So let's get this up in the air and start the procedure. Now that we have it up in the air, we're going to drain the transmission. Right now, this is the front of the vehicle, back of the vehicle, driver's side, passenger side. We got our drain pan ready. Right here is our drain plug. It's the only thing that looks like that on the bottom of the transmission, and it takes a 3/8 drive square, which is right off of something like this, right off a ratchet. So we're going to get the ratchet on here, give it a good pull. These things are usually quite tight. And then we can position our drain pan and spin this off. If it's hot, be careful, because not only is the plug hot, the fluid's going to be hot. I can see it start to drip off, and it is dirty. Not surprising with presumably 143,000 miles on it. So I'm going to raise the pan all the way up here. I might block the view a little bit, but I'm going to do my best to capture everything and not make a mess. All right, and I made just a little bit of a mess, mostly on my hand. Now we can drop it back down and see. We'll take my hand, it's already messy, and there's what it looks like. It actually doesn't look as bad as I initially thought, but it is definitely dark, so this is absolutely a needed service. It's almost done draining, and while that's happening, I'm going to grab the drain plug here, which is quite hot, and you can see on the magnet how much stuff there is. We'll try and get some focus here. Come on, come on. There's just a lot of stuff on that magnet. So we're going to wipe that off here. You can see. The other thing to mention is this crush washer. On paper, you're supposed to replace this every time you pull the plug out, and I'm not going to suggest that you shouldn't do that. What I do a lot of these days is reuse it as long as it looks okay and I don't see any flaws with it and it wasn't previously leaking. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this case. I'm just simply going to be reinstalling it with the clean magnet and the original crush washer. We're probably good to go since we're going to be doing this 3 times. I'm not worried about getting every single drop out. So I will reinstall the plug, spin it on by hand, move the drain pan out of the way, wipe everything down. I'm going to grab my torque wrench set to 36 foot-pounds. This step is not really necessary at this point since we're going to be opening it back up again, but I do like to follow the directions. So we have it torqued to 36 foot-pounds, and now we can top off the transmission. We're moving up top now, and if we go under the hood here and look right down on the transmission side, we can see right there the dipstick in the transmission. So I'm going to reach down in there and pull that out and put my long funnel in there. I'll link in the description to this funnel. It works excellent on this vehicle. First we'll reach down. It's just a little guy. We'll set that aside, and then we'll feed the funnel down here. And you obviously want to confirm that you did in fact get that into the dipstick tube and not next to it, or you'll be making quite the mess. We should be able to do this. I'm of course doing it one-handed, but we should be able to do this without making a big mess. Because we're going to be doing this 3 times, I'm going to leave the funnel right there. I'm going to set the dipstick aside in the spot where it's not going to go anywhere, there or anywhere else. Just don't lose it in the engine bay. And I'm going to hop in and start this thing up and shift through the gears. In the vehicle, I'm going to depress the brake, hit the start button, start it up, and then we're going to step on the brake. We're going to shift into reverse for about 5 seconds, neutral, drive for about 5 seconds, low. I don't know if that actually makes any difference or not because it might just be locking in first, but we're doing it anyways. Back to drive, back to reverse, and then back in park. And we've probably let this thing run about long enough. Transmissions pump fluid very quickly, so I would venture to guess we've pumped that full gallon through. So we're going to shut it off, and we're going to go back underneath and repeat the process. Here is going to be our second drain. Similar results, a little bit of a mess, but nothing major. Back up top for the second fill. Another round inside. Our final drain. Got another try to not spill a drop. Failed. And it is looking quite clean at this point. My hand's dirty, but the fluid's looking pretty good. We're just down to a trickle, so we'll do our final install. And of course, this last time, it is mandatory to torque it down. Or you could throw a guess at it if you don't have a torque wrench. I always prefer to do it the correct way. Now we'll do our final fill, and I'm going to do slightly less than a gallon just to make sure I don't overfill it. We'll take it for a test drive, and then we'll dial in the fill level. Now we can take our funnel out. We'll set that aside on a paper towel so it doesn't make a mess. We'll wipe off our dipstick, and we'll reinstall the dipstick. There's a little notch right there, and there's a metal tab on the tube that lines up with. It's in there, and you can see if it focuses that metal tab that's lined up. And now we're going to take it out for a test drive and see what it drives like, and then we'll come back and we'll verify the correct fill level. Out for a test drive. The trick to making this act up is to get it up in high gear, get the torque converter locked up, so the RPMs are dropped down as low as they can go, and then you step on the throttle as much as you can without making it downshift. And that is when it seems to act up. And it seems as though it's a little tricky. Yeah, I see the needle moving just a hair. I don't feel anything. It looks much more stable, and it definitely doesn't feel like it did before. Even though I am still seeing a tiny bit of movement out of the tack, it doesn't feel like I've got the same problem. We'll try it again here. Just ease into the throttle. Every once in a while I see just a blip out of it, but there again, the feel of it is good. I'm not seeing, it's really, really much more steady than it was before, and I'm not feeling it. So it's really those two things combined, not feeling it, not seeing it. So time will tell, but that's a really good start because it always did this according to the customer. And so the fact that I can't duplicate it now, try again here. Yeah, that is making me feel pretty good about the chance of this actually resolving the problem. Now, time will tell, like I said, so I'll report back. I'll give any updates in the description as time goes on, but this certainly is the place to start. And for 3 gallons of fluid, it is not an expensive deal to try this out. So we're gonna pull back in here and we're gonna set the level. You've already seen where this dipstick is, so I'm gonna reach down in here. We're right off the test drive, nice and warm. You do this with the vehicle off. So we're gonna wipe off the dipstick tube. I'll tuck it back in here, and of course you wanna be careful because everything is very hot. We'll push it in all the way, lining up that notch. We'll pull it out and look at it. I am just above half. There, are we getting some focus? We're just above half on the hot range. So I'm going to put in a few more ounces. It looks like we're going to be at about 3.8 quarts. So just shy of a whole gallon. And so I would recommend starting with maybe 3.5 quarts, and then you can top it off as needed. You might have slightly different results than me, even if these are all the same transmission. So add little bits as needed, but we're going to land at about 3.8. We are just a hair below that top dot, which is a perfect place to be. We'll put the dipstick back in. We're all topped off and ready to go. So whether you are just trying to do a basic service on one of these, hopefully as preventative maintenance to possibly prevent this problem, or if you're encountering this problem, there again, I can't guarantee that this is going to fix it, but in this case, it looks like we're out of the woods on it, and hopefully it gives her many more years of trouble-free service. But that is what is involved with a transmission service and possibly a shutter fix on the 2016 through 2020 Honda Pilot. Thanks for watching.